Hello, and welcome back to Games Embassy with the Ambassadors of Gaming. I'm one of your two hosts, Ambassador Chris.
And I'm Ambassador Michael.
And we have news about stuff. Mike, how are you today?
I'm doing well.
I'm also doing well. I have some lab reports that I have still been putting off, but everything's fine for the most part. It's like in that meme, the house is burning down. This is fine.
Procrastination is key.
Yeah, procrastination is key. But anyway, we have a guest with us today, Billy, from our little group that we're on Facebook called Fanboys of Gaming. Say hello, Billy.
Hey there, guys. Happy to be here to talk about gaming news and a bunch of interesting stuff.
Good stuff. He is joining us. We're going to try and make this a recurring thing. We find that we get a little bit. The conversations get a little bit more in depth when we add an outside presence to just my conversation and Mike's conversation. So try and expect that for future episodes of Games Embassy. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and go to Mike so he can do our plug. Go ahead, Mike.
If you would like to support our content and its future, we have a Patreon where you can get some really cool stuff, exclusives, access to the show early, and you can also get your questions read on the air if you would like. And that's pretty much it. So you can go over there, and if you would like, we can have a capitalistic exchange. It also helps keep us not being broke. So I can move out of my box. It's soggy.
Yeah, he can move out.
It's rainy season in Florida now.
That's so you're gross. But we also have a one more plug. Don't leave yet. Just one more plug from our friend Billy here. Go ahead.
Yes, so I'm actually one of two members at the moment of a small development team called Tiger Studios. We're working on our first indie title called Bruce Declassified, and it's a sci-fi RPG horror game. That's all I have for now regarding the game. But as more and more developments begin within the project, I'll be sharing more on my Twitter, which is It's Son of Azad, and other social media platforms. So that's something to look forward to.
Awesome. I have it on good authority that is also there will be loot boxes. So look forward to that.
Absolutely. Yep.
There will be every loot box available. But anyway, let's go ahead and move into these updates. So Mike, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Super Mario Odyssey is receiving some more VR support with a theater mode update. With this update, users will be able to watch all of the in-game cutscenes in VR, and if the mode wasn't self-explanatory, you will be watching the cutscenes in a VR theater, more so than you will be watching the cutscenes in first person, so it's not like you're just Mario. The update was from the Japanese Mario Odyssey account, and it dates April 26th as the release, and we're going to assume that the update will come to all users across, the world at the same day. So,
great. Octopath Traveler on PC leaks officially. So, in a now deleted blog post by Square Enix, sorry, let me repeat that again. Octopath Traveler on PC leaks officially. In a now deleted blog post by Square Enix, they confirmed that Octopath Traveler is indeed coming to PC on Steam on June the 7th.
Woot woot! I love Octopath Traveler, even though I never beat it. God Eater 3 is coming to Nintendo Switch. Bandai Namco has announced that God Eater 3, the popular JRPG, is coming to Switch on July 12th, 2019. Previously, the God Eater games have been released on the PS4, PS Vita, if you know what that is, the PSP, and PC.
RIP Vita.
What's a Vita?
Sekiro Shadows Die Twice hits more than 2 million copies sold worldwide in less than 10 days. According to a blog post to investors on Activision's site, Sekiro has sold more than 2 million copies. This is the fastest a From Software game has reached that milestone, while the game is one of their Soulsborne type of games. So, big news.
Yeah, and Respawn has shown the first trailer for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So the team, while at Star Wars Celebration, showed off the game for the first time. And a few tidbits here. The game will not run on Frostbite. It will, in fact, run in Unreal Engine. Have microtransactions. It won't have microtransactions or loot boxes. And it won't receive microtransactions or loot boxes in the future. So it's a complete no to microtransactions or loot boxes or any of that terrible stuff, as we'd all agree. The combat is described as thoughtful and has a lot of depth to it, but it's easy to pick up. And the main character of the game is Cameron Monaghan, which some of you might know from Shameless and Gotham.
I just want to point out that it's super funny. But before we go on to the news, I just want to point out, this makes me think of Outer Worlds when they announced, and it was like they basically were like, "Hey, we have nothing to do with Fallout 76. You can trust us." And I feel like Respawn is doing the same thing right now after that freaking BioWare article got released.
God.
Here's the things that this game will not be. It will not run on Frostbite. It will not have loot boxes, and it will never have loot boxes. They're like, "Do not hate us."
Right.
So.
It's everything apart from those things.
Respawn is very strange in its relationship with EA. It seems to be treated very differently than the other studios.
Well, let's hope that it stays that way. All right, our next update is PlayStation has finally let you change your name. And guess what? There's only a few game-breaking issues. Oh, that was a good pun, but screw you guys. So you can change your name, and they're letting you do it for the first time for free. And then I believe it's $10 for just anyone. And then with PlayStation Plus, I believe it's $4.99 to change it after the first time. Sony has put up 3 lists of games. They put up games with no issues known, games with some minor issues such as your old name still appearing, and games with issues like having trouble with online usage, content you own no longer is accessible, or just says you don't own it. And at any time, if you encounter these issues, they will let you revert to your old name for free at any time. Interesting to note, just one little thing. For some reason, Kingdom Hearts 3 isn't on any of those lists. I don't know why, but it's just not there. So next update, or our last update actually, Capcom is selling a $5 unlock key to unlock rewards. Which rewards, you might ask? All the rewards. As a staple of old video games, Capcom included unlockable extra modes, abilities, and even costumes in the original Resident Evil. The Resident Evil 2, or the original Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 Remake stays truthful to this format by having these features in the game, encouraging players to go back and play faster, smarter, and better ways to reward them with guns and like infinite ammo cheats and everything. But Capcom this time around has decided that for $5 you can skip all of that replaying the game and just get all the stuff, which eliminates some of the replayability, which is kind of disappointing. But I mean, at this time, everyone is doing these little pay money and you can get the things that you can get from playing through the game, or you could just pay money and get them. So with all the evils out here with paying extra for stuff in games, this is definitely a lesser of a few evils. But it is disappointing to see that even these really loved game remakes even succumb to the new game economy, as it were.
Modern habits, yeah.
So, Mike, why don't you go ahead and take us to our first piece of news discussion?
Oh boy, let's talk about legality.
Oh,
so
yes!
Microsoft and Nintendo are under investigation over their online subscriptions. Hooray! More government interference. The competition and marks authority in the UK has stated that the way... I'm going to start again because I want to keep the
sorry.
laughing.
It's funny, dude.
You're fine.
He says, no, you don't have to just keep going. It's fine. Keep going.
So the way that the subscriptions are renewed according to the competition and mark its authority in the UK is, quote, unfair, and are looking into the operations to make sure the services are fair and balanced. The focus is primarily on how renewals are approached, along with cancellation practices and refunds. One of the reasons, you may have seen the recent PlayStation Store terms of service and refund policies added is because of something like this. If you're unaware, you may get a refund on a game or PlayStation Plus, but you must not have downloaded the game and file for the refund within 14 days of purchase. PlayStation Plus, however, is refunded prorated depending on how much you've already used and depending on which one you purchase. And then all refunds, however, are given back in store credit. That's one of the things that I'm assuming they're looking into as well, instead of just store credit, getting actual money back. The CMA will be looking into terms and conditions regarding the renewal of subscriptions.
This is definitely a hot topic. Ever since EA did their whole thing with microtransactions in Battlefront 2, I feel like the entire games industry now has been under a microscope for anything involving just money being taken out. It doesn't surprise me. PlayStation did update their stuff to make sure that hey, you will be automatically signed up if you check this box. Xbox is really blatant about it. They say, hey, you'll get an extra month free of Xbox Live if you sign up for automatic updates, but they don't make you do it. I'm not really sure about how Nintendo works. I mean, their online service is only $20 for a year if you get the standard one person.
Yeah, it's a pretty down the line auto renew. So when you're on the Switch and you check your subscription information and all that stuff, it gives you an option to have auto renew on or renew manually, and you can kind of switch between the two. So it's pretty down the line, pretty simplistic on Nintendo. So from what I've seen, at least.
If I may,
you may.
Yeah, I think the big thing that they're trying to communicate here is that with this and most subscriptions, when you are up for renewal, they inform you ahead of time. That's usually the case, so that you have, because there are people who have subscriptions on the paycheck to paycheck. So if your $60, $80 subscription hits your bank account, you're not prepared for it. Could kind of mess up your stuff, and I think that's probably why they're looking into it. Is mostly that. As far as I know, when I check my emails, you rarely see anything that's like, hey, your subscription will renew soon. It's just like, you've been charged.
Yeah, no,
I think that's really what they're looking at here.
Yeah, there needs to be more transparency for sure.
Because they don't have anything like that in the US as of right now. They were under investigation for a bunch of stuff that actually forced them to change.
All right, yeah, it's definitely something to keep our eye on.
So, Fallout 76 further upsets its player base by adding new microtransactions. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Fallout 76 has added a new type of microtransaction that allows for users to repair all of their items. So there are two new items. There's basic repair kits. They must be bought with atoms, the premium currency in the game. And you have improved kits, and they're only obtained as loot within the game. The kits will allow users to repair their equipment instantly. Basic kits will be 100%, and improved kits will be put at 150%. The big debate is about whether or not this is a pay-to-win element due to Bethesda's Pete Hines claiming that the Atomic Shop is only cosmetic stuff. To make sure folks understand, look, there's a line. There are people who have crossed it, but we're going to stay on the right side of it in terms of things you can spend money on and how this stuff works and what you're getting for your $60. That, when they put out new content or features or whatever, I'm getting that stuff for free. That feels right. And that's a quote of Pete Hines. The percentage of use of an item affects its stats, so some view this as a pay-to-win element. So that's some people's impression of this update to Fallout 76.
What is it with poopy games in these last few years? What is it? What's going on?
My understanding and impression is that they finally adopted the business models that I've seen in other businesses, which is, let's do the minimal amount of effort to make the most amount of money, because that's the only way we can raise our profit margins any higher, and without having to actually do a lot of work to make more sales. Lower the value of what you're selling.
Fun.
It's part of the reason why a lot of in-house things are used as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's weird. I don't, because it leaves a bad taste in my mouth, because now I'm like cautious. Like, I'm very cautious about games and what I'm going to buy.
Especially games as a service. I liked the Division 1, but I found that it had even less to do when we played it. I know that the DLC at the end of the Division 1 supposedly did make that game pick up pretty well. And then, of course, I'm a frequent Destiny player right now as it is. I got Anthem to give it a try, and I was extremely disappointed, to the point where it reminded me, this is why you usually don't play more than one games as a service game at a time. That's why I didn't buy the Division 2.
Same here.
Even though I am reading some very good things about the Division 2. This Fallout 76 has been pooping the bed consistently without even cleaning it after each time it does. So,
shamelessly, yeah.
I'll put it this way.
I mean,
no, go ahead.
Oh no, I was fine. Please.
Okay. Just I like Pete Hines, but Pete Hines' job is to be a PR mouthpiece. That's his job. His job is to make the company look good. And I know I can understand that how bad Fallout 76 must be is that Pete Hines, ever since Fallout 76 came out, has basically been on social media hiatus. Like he just doesn't post basically at all. And when he does post, it's very rare and it's just like little updates. It's retweets mostly. He hasn't tweeted himself in a very long time.
And I'm sure he gets pooped on every time that he tweets something about Fallout 76 and how crappy it is or something along those lines.
I think that's probably the point.
Yeah, I was looking through his Twitter feed from last year, and it said he tweeted quoted the tweet by Sony saying, "Oh, we're gonna do crossplay now," and he said, "Well done, Sony," and he got pooped on for that as well. Like it was just people getting angry, saying, "Oh, so you're one of those people that thought crossplay needed to be a thing." The typical kind of angry responses to when developers say stuff like that. But I think it's a good point. It's a good point that Mike mentioned that he is a PR guy after all. I mean, if we wind back to 2013 when Xbox One was originally revealed and people knew what it was trying to do and the whole DRM fiasco and all that stuff. Major Nelson, one of the kind of main kind of folks at Team Xbox, he a lot of his job was kind of selling the console and what it was doing before the change happened to the policies as something that was great. So like Pete Hines is kind of he's given what he needs to promote and he has to make it sound great even when it's not so great. So it's a difficult job, I'd say.
And no one's saying anything against him personally. Like I'm sure like we said, we like Pete Hines, but unfortunately you can be the nicest person ever. It doesn't make, unfortunately, the thing that you're representing any better. Especially for gamers who are so unforgiving. Just look at the Epic Games and Steam situation going on right now. You are seeing the absolute, like we all knew that sometimes people that are really hardcore about one console, not just PC, there are what they call them, Xbones or Xbros, dudes that are super try hard for Xbox, or the Sony ponies or Play Stupids that are super hardcore on PlayStation. And then, of course, the wrath of PC players we've just recently seen through this Epic Store and Steam Store debate. Gamers are very unforgiving, so PR reps have their work cut out for them, especially ones for games that are really getting pooped on, like Fallout 76 and Anthem.
And just real quick regarding the actual microtransaction, just to kind of pivot back towards that, because I did want to address the Pete Hines thing and the PR thing, and then I want to pivot back to this, is that with Fallout 76 and this microtransaction, it's just like, I don't know if anybody at Bethesda who implemented this thought about it, like critically thought about it. You know what I mean? This sounds like something that was already planned ahead of time, because it's like, how do we increase our public perception? Okay, let's release this microtransaction. That will make people happy. And I think there is an element of pay to win to it, only due to the fact that your stats are affected by the awareness of your materials and your equipment. Is that correct?
Yes.
I just wanted to confirm. I don't know. Me and you haven't played 76, and I couldn't remember if Billy had or not.
I have ever so slightly. It's not enough to kind of have like a full definitive say on it. But if anything affects like the core mechanics of the game, then and you have to and you can purchase it, and it kind of buffs you up in a permanent way in the game, then I mean, by its nature, by definition, that would be a pay to win element.
Right, and I think I would agree with that. And I think that's why people are so upset. Is it's like, this game's already a dumpster fire. They already feel people are very upset about it, with it, and we're now in a scenario where it's like, how do you make it better? Because Bethesda has other games coming out, and I'm like worried about the games that are going to be good that are coming out, that are going to deal with the repercussions of 76. Like Rage is coming out.
You are literally making the best segue ever into our next news point.
You're welcome.
Impressive.
So let me finish this, and then we'll go on to the next one. The short version is that I'm worried about Rage 2 and Doom just based off of this when it comes to the hardcore community. Like, they're gonna sell well. I know they will sell well with the generic or the general audience. I'm sorry. Because they don't give a shit about Fallout 76 or what's happening with it or any of this. So, but in terms of our perception of Bethesda and the way Bethesda handle things and Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, like, maybe something, they need to, fix, basically. So, but I'll leave it there so you can move on to our next story, because I think we pretty much nailed all the good points we can make here.
Yeah, actually, when you really think about it, I bet Fallout 76 is almost kind of happy that this whole BioWare article came out from Jason Schreier, because it's taken some of the heat off them for how
Yeah.
Now that there's a new shitty game in town. So anyway, anything you want to add, Billy?
Yeah, but I mean, regarding that, I mean, I second what you guys are saying about it. I mean, like, PR guys get a bad rap, but the game is what it is. Fallout 76. It started off pretty rough. It has been rough since, and it's where it is now. And sometimes you just have to, just accept that. Yeah, this game's not really doing as well as people hope. I mean, the important thing, we all wished it would have been better. I mean, for the sake of Bethesda, there was a little kind of side note to this. Part of me does feel that these companies, studios, whatever it is, Xbox, PlayStation, Bethesda, all these studios and companies, they have a duty, in a sense, to make their shareholders feel like their profits and their revenue is protected or going to be boosted. So part of me feels like that might be a theory, is that might have something to do with why they introduce all of these kind of microtransaction policies or new additions which capitalize on, players can buy this and players can buy that, because it boosts the revenue of a game, which in turn obviously means that the shareholders are going to get a lot, kind of a chunk, a beefier payday. So part of me thinks it's to kind of appease that, and I say the same thing about Xbox when it comes to PC gaming as well. Like, they're catering to PC because PC is Microsoft's bread and butter. Xbox isn't Microsoft's bread and butter. Xbox is Microsoft's hobby. So they have to kind of show to Microsoft, as any company would to their father company, that we do deserve to be a part of you, and we do deserve to have your kind of undying fidelity, kind of thing.
I agree. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on. So, we've got another Jason Schreier article. Jason Schreier has written about another piece of BioWare, except this one is going to be around Dragon Age 4. And before we get into this, I'm just going to point out our last episode that we did, we went really in depth on some of these game development cycles, and we're going to try not to do that too much here. We don't want to retread new ground. We're just going to talk about, how this is going to be affected by maybe some of Anthem stuff, but we won't be talking too much about Anthem per se. So don't worry if you watch last week. We're not going to just say the same things over again. So, as discussed last week, BioWare has a lot on its plate at the moment, and a lot of people are worried that the next project, given its last two being Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem, may not be too great. And while, yes, technically Andromeda was made by BioWare Montreal, we know people were pulled from teams to make projects to reach each respective release date. Dragon Age 4 was announced last year at the Game Awards prior to Anthem's February 2019 release. And so Jason wrote that while Dragon Age 4 is still in development, it has been very rocky. The team originally working on Dragon Age 4 had a concept and ideas very early on, unlike the Anthem team, which is kind of nice. They had plans to use the tools already made from Dragon Age Inquisition to nail down the concept quickly. The premise is that you played as a group with focus on choice and consequence. The design philosophy was, quote, repeat play, but by making areas change over time and missions branch in ways that were based on your decisions, and even having non-standard game overs. The project was titled Joplin and was canceled in 2017 to make room for the team to move to Anthem right at the beginning of its big crunch, as we discussed, its 12 to 16 month crunch, as we discussed in the last week's episode. The current iteration of Dragon Age 4 is codenamed Morrison, and is being built on Anthem's tools and codebase because the game was basically completely scrapped and then rebooted totally new. And this version will have live service component in mind, built for long-term gameplay and revenue. EA has reportedly been nice enough to wipe the financial slate clean on the game and write Joplin off as a loss, so it won't count against BioWare. The BioWare employees Jason spoke to stated that the game, quote, would be designed for single player, and the goal of the multiplayer elements would be to keep people engaged so that they would actually stick with the post-launch content. I've seen this movie before.
It's almost like Anthem all over again.
Yeah. So, Billy, why don't you go ahead and start us off? Mike and I have been really, really quick to grab the reins. Why don't you go ahead and start us off on what you think?
Sure. So, BioWare is in a very difficult position. They have been for a long while. Obviously, what with Andromeda, there was a lot of things happening behind the scenes then that has found its way into Anthem's release, and then obviously Anthem's released, and we all see how that turned out. I mean, I always had a feeling that the next Dragon Age game would be facing some serious difficulties in terms of, like how it would, progress, what kind of game it would be, what would be the kind of, where would they take the brand identity? How are they going to evolve the game? Because obviously as a developer, you want to keep evolving your game as well. And when you have a back catalogue of so many different types of games, or not different types of games, but games that have a variety of different features, or gameplay mechanics, it's like, you want to keep building on that. So obviously you go from Andromeda to Anthem and now to Dragon Age. So naturally you think, oh, maybe they are going to keep it. They are going to make it something similar to what they did in Anthem specifically. And people have mixed feelings about that. I personally did enjoy Anthem for what it's worth. I enjoyed it. I'd say it in past tense on purpose, because over time it does start losing its steam, and did start losing its steam with me. So if they are moving in that direction, I don't think it would be great for a franchise like Dragon Age. They should, in my opinion, they should really kind of seriously think about, as a studio, as much autonomy as BioWare has. I mean, I'm not going to be naive and say they have complete, reins on this and they can choose what happens when and what happens when. But whatever they can do within the development of Dragon Age, if they can kind of think very carefully and have discussions with EA, if possible, about, where the game can go, what they can change in the development.
All right. Okay. I see how that could be. The only thing that has me, the biggest thing that has me concerned is that it's being built over a bunch of assets from Anthem. Anthem's code base has not been very reliable at all.
Right, and I think that's objectively true.
I'm nervous to see. Yeah. The release was awful. The release was absolutely awful. Loading screens aren't as frequent, but they're still there. Random crashes, people not even being able to log into the game. It was a nightmare. It was really bad.
It was triggering weird stuff on PS4.
Yeah, it was bricking PS4s.
It was causing like a fake brick. It was weird. It basically partitioned your hard drive, like in some weird way. It like crashed the hard drive basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, because real quick, to back up to the Respawn thing we talked about earlier and how Respawn is treated differently. This is exactly what I mean in terms of when Respawn was handed Star Wars. This is the only non-games as a service Star Wars that has survived.
Yeah, the visceral one got cancelled. Yeah.
As far as we know, there's one that they're making now, and where is it at? That one got canceled. The one that was originally at Visceral,
yeah, I believe so.
That one got canceled.
And then they started it again at a different studio, and didn't they cancel that one again?
Yep. We discussed it. They canceled it twice, and now it's on a shelf.
They canceled the same game twice. So, and this is the opposite of what EA supposedly wants, our live service games, because they want to make a lot of money. The difference is that EA focuses too much, I think, on the financial side of let's make a bunch of money, whereas I think Ubisoft does it right on that line, where they're like, here's a very good game that we want to make a lot of money off of for a long time. And I think that's why you see success with Origins and Odyssey specifically, and even Siege. Whereas with EA, they're kind of crashing and burning on a lot of things outside of their sports. And so I'm trying to think here of anything I really have left to say on it, because It's like, my point with Respawn was they're allowing Respawn to do a single player game, no microtransactions, no online components. Why not just let BioWare do the same? Why is it that it needs to have this live component to it outside of making money? If it doesn't fit with the game, it doesn't make sense to implement it. It's like, I don't know. I just don't get it.
You see, that's what made me think. That's what made me think about, as a studio, if they were to, stand their ground to EA a little bit and say, no, this is the type of game we want to make because we believe in this type of approach to it, or this idea. Developers are very passionate people, so like they have lots of ideas, but EA is like that father that's like, no, you're not going to become an artist. You're going to become a doctor. You're going to become a lawyer, a surgeon, whatever it is. It's like it's annoying.
That's a very interesting take.
I think the premise of what he's saying is EA wants them to do the practical thing, not the risky thing. I think that's what he's trying to get to. So and don't get me wrong, as a business, I understand that, but at the same point, when you're teetering between business and art, I think you need to ride that line. So, but I think
carrot and stick.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've covered everything here. So unless anybody has anything to say, I'll move on.
Makes me happy to know that Kingdom Hearts and like all those others, there's still a lot of single player games that are being made that are making money. So that genre hopefully will not. Everything won't be games as a service with microtransactions.
Exactly. So that's
Mike, go ahead and take us on to our next news point.
Okay. But interesting enough, we're going to talk about Ubisoft a bit here. So there is some rumors heating up here about Dino Crisis being remade and a new Splinter Cell. A report by Xbox Generation, supported by a Leo Carina user from Reset Area, asterisk, take with a huge grain of salt, claims to have leaked the entire Xbox E3 conference, or at least the biggest points. So possible spoilers ahead. So if you want to skip over this, I'll try to timestamp it here for you. So
don't leave.
The report claims that there will be at least 2 world premieres, including a Dino Crisis remake, arriving in 2020, and a new Splinter Cell. This comes at an interesting time because Ubisoft's Yves Guillemot recently spoke about a new Splinter Cell, specifically saying, quote, "Last time we did a Splinter Cell, we had lots of pressure from all of the fans saying, don't change it, don't do this, don't do that. Some of the teams were very anxious to work on that brand." He elaborated to say that they felt more comfortable working with like Assassin's Creed and doing interesting things with that versus wanting to work on Splinter Cell because of the pressure. Other highlights include a teaser for a new Fable game by Playground Games, Bleeding Edge by Ninja Theory, a new IP. Upon researching, we can confirm that a trademark for Bleeding Edge was filed by Ninja Theory on April 12th, 2018. Included in the trademark are filings for software, as to be expected, and use on merchandise. The last point here is a new Rare IP for next generation. So that's a lot of information about speculation about things that may be true. Thoughts?
That's a lot of information about speculation about things. It just sounded like a weird sentence. I mean, leaks are always fun, especially when you get leaks from really reliable leakers.
Exactly.
I remember back in the day, there was a Destiny leak that was so good. He actually put up online that Destiny contacted him and told him to chill out.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
He was good as a leaker that Bungie was just like, dude, shut up.
Oh man, come on.
That's funny. Yeah, like too much. I haven't heard anything from Splinter Cell. I actually totally forgot about Splinter Cell. It's been when was the last Splinter Cell?
2013, I think it was. Blacklist, August or September 2013 was when Blacklist dropped, I believe. Yeah, I remember that.
For PS3, right?
For PS3, Xbox 360, and PC. And it was pretty. It was personally for me, because I was playing Splinter Cell Chaos Theory and Pandora Tomorrow on PC at the time. I was following it quite closely because I was like, okay, and Conviction for that matter. Although Conviction was a bit of a mixed bag with fans, it moved the series in a completely different direction. I really enjoyed all of those games, and even Conviction for what it was. I really thought, you know what, this is a bold new world for Sam Fisher to find himself in, and it made sense, I think, given changes in technology and what they were able to do. So I think it needed to be a bit more inclusive rather than kind of working itself into a corner of a specific approach in the game, like having it just stealth focused. Why not give players option? I mean, stealth is still there, but you have the option to go loud and proud as well. But I do completely get what Gamo was saying about the fans, demanding almost that, no, please do this or do that or do that, and that's the last thing you want to do is mess with fans, because they will eat you up in a second. So especially when it comes to set, that could be like the end of a franchise if you do it wrong. So developers don't want to be in that position, and the studio doesn't want to be in its position. So obviously it's gonna be a bit more cautious. But I think they should just be like, you know what, we love this franchise. We should make the game. Just put it out there. I'm sure fans will love it, and fans will love it, I'm sure. But can't blame them for being a little bit kind of nervous, for lack of better terms.
I can see that. For me, I don't really like leaks too much. That's just me personally. I don't really like discussing the things that aren't set in stone, because people can leak anything. Even a reliable leaker can come up with like a really BS thing to leak and get everyone all up in a tizzy. But so I choose not to lean in to the leaks, as it were. But I mean, it'd be interesting to see what they could really do with Splinter Cell, especially now. I'm really hoping they'll go games as a service. That'd be really great.
That would be perfect.
Just chuck every microtransaction.
That'd be exactly what I want.
If they could actually just make Splinter Cell Battle Royale, that would be fantastic.
Oh yes,
that would be exactly
Battle Royale with Battlefront 2's loot boxes. I want to get Darth Vader. I want to have a random chance at getting Darth Vader if I spend $120 on loot boxes.
Yeah. No, we'll make it like World War II. You just open your loot boxes in the Battle Royale while it's happening in real time. And somebody can kill you for your loot boxes.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm gonna go into real speculation.
This Franken game we're making.
Right. It's everything. So I wasn't gonna really include this, just because, again, like Chris said, I like speculating and having fun, but I think that's more reserved for like its own sort of content outside of the podcast, like a YouTube video. More so, I would rather do a sit down and talk like that. But here I included it only because of the bleeding edge thing by Ninja Theory. You can, in the US, you can do trademarks and patents on pretty much anything. But we even saw with the Scalebound trademark, Microsoft was denied the Scalebound trademark when it tried to redo it. And that's why there were all those crazy rumors about it coming to Switch. So you have to have some sort of intent when you file a trademark. I think that's why it's important. And Microsoft is very good about backing up its IP and trying to build it into an actual brand and not outside of just being a game. So I think that has some weight to it. But pretty much everything else here, I'm like, we'll just have to see. Capcom's in a weird spot where they want to keep remaking stuff because that's what people want. People just want the old, really good Capcom games to be remade with a fresh coat of paint. They're redoing Resident Evil 3, I think, as well. So and Dino Crisis is the one they asked for a lot. It's very niche, but it's the one people ask for. So I think you'll probably get that. But the rest of the stuff, I want to see it. Hopefully it's true. But I mean, if it's not, whatever. Right. It's like, it would be awesome if all of this comes to fruition, but who knows? Honestly, we'll just have to wait and see until E3. So I think that's all of it.
Yeah, we could dwell on leaks for a while. Let's
exactly.
Billy, why don't you take us to our last news point of today?
Sure. So, Disney is launching its streaming service, and it's coming to the PS4. Okay, the service, to be fair, is also expected to come to Xbox One and Switch. However, it seems those deals may not be finalized just yet. Hence the definitive PS4 arrival, but Xbox and Switch not being announced yet. So the service itself will feature 25 or more new episodic series from Disney or their subsidiaries, 10 or more movies and specials, roughly 7,500 past episodes of on-air and off-air, and 100 or more recent movies, including Captain Marvel. So that's pretty exciting stuff there. And then you got 400 or more library titles, including legacy movies from Disney. The service plans to expand that by a lot over the 5 years, even telling investors that it expects to lose up to $1 billion in 2020 through 2022, expecting the service to be profitable on its own in 2024. And the service launches in the US on November 12, 2019, and will cost $6.99 per month. Or you could have the annual subscription for $69.99 per year, which is about $5.83 per month. So I'm personally, if I can just chime in on this, I'm personally quite excited for the Disney streaming service because it'll bring, like, I mean, if I'm going to be a bit of a fanboy here, like it will bring all of the Marvel stuff that is able to stream on the service to one platform, and it'll be fun to kind of go through the whole back catalogue at some point of all the Marvel movies, the Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, Phase 4. And obviously everything going forward as well. It's just pretty exciting. And those mini-series, for that matter. I saw Sebastian Stan, the dude who plays Winter Soldier in the Marvel movies. He posted a picture of the logo of Winter Soldier and Falcon. Now, I'm not sure. I'm taking that with a big grain of salt. But the possibilities are endless. They could do lots of spin-offs.
They already announced that.
Is coming to an end for them.
Yes, it's confirmed.
That was announced. Okay.
Same thing with a Scarlet Witch and Vision mini limited series as well.
There we go. So it's all exciting stuff.
Yeah, the only thing that's rumored is I won't say who, but there's a rumor that one of the Avengers is getting their own miniseries to kind of usher in a new character into that spot of that person. So I don't want to spoil that for anybody.
There is
like it was for me.
I've been seeing everyone knew, especially if you were a fan of the Netflix Marvel series, basically what Disney did, which is kind of crappy. So the way Netflix works is they judge how well a series does on their platform by the amount of new viewers it brings in. And Daredevil season 2 was the most watched season of anything on Netflix, I believe, for the longest time. It held that spot. Unfortunately, because what Netflix would do is that they would pay DC, Jesus, they'd pay Disney a lump sum to use their characters for each season. To use Daredevil, Jessica Jones, stuff like that. But what Disney did was raise their prices something fierce because they don't want their what's now their property on now what's going to be a competitor when they launch their streaming service. They don't want they don't want a Marvel show on Netflix, but they can't just say no because they have a contract. So what they did was they just raised the price ridiculously, and Netflix was like, I'm not willing to pay that price. So unfortunately, those shows have been...
And so they canceled all those
shows.
shows.
And unfortunately, Netflix still owns them. So we're not going to be seeing them for a while, if they even ever come back at all. Which very much disappointed me.
Right. A theory that just came to mind regarding all of this is that I suppose having the miniseries and potential future series that they make on Disney Plus, it probably would make it easier to have like a truly kind of massive universe. I mean, I always thought there were like fleeting references in, say, Daredevil season 1 or the other.
Oh yeah, where they would reference the alien incident in the first Avengers movie, stuff like that. I know what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. Like ever since the dude with a hammer came down and all that kind of stuff, they kind of have passing references. But I was really yearning for like, and maybe I was too naive to think this, but I genuinely thought, what if there's going to be like a merger and the Netflix characters are going to be in Infinity War. I was very naive to think that. Right. So but obviously it makes sense now. In retrospect, it makes sense that logistically it wouldn't be possible with Disney Plus and the characters all being under that umbrella. It would be very interesting to see how they do, like, you could have a really big blockbuster movie in the summer and then have like mini series in between, which is like the connective tissue and kind of, quenches your thirst for more for more content, and then you have another big blockbuster, and then it was really cool to see that. I think
I can agree. They will definitely need to have some premium content because people are already so set in stone. Everyone and their grandma's attempting to come out with a streaming service for people to pay for. Not so much recently, but in the past year, definitely there's been a whole bunch of streaming services popping up, and Netflix and Hulu are really some of the strongest. So they're going to have some really good premium content in order to make people pay for another streaming service. Because I am the biggest Star Trek fan ever, and I still am refusing to buy that streaming service to watch Star Trek Discovery.
Who's it on?
Oh, I can't even remember which streaming service it is. They're doing Patrick Stewart is doing a post Star Trek The Next Generation kind of thing too on the same platform. So 2 Star Trek shows, but I'm like, I can't. I cannot justify buying a streaming service for that.
For just one show, you have to have a lot of tentpole stuff on there, don't you?
Right. The way the difference, I think the big difference here, I'm just going to compare this a little bit in terms of the Marvel stuff to the DC one that DC has, because WB's owned DC for so long. They've been able to kind of pivot things way easier than Disney has because of all the contracts Marvel had before Disney bought them. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Marvel Netflix thing happened before Disney bought them, right?
I'm not sure.
Or is that incorrect?
I don't know.
Okay. I'll leave it as a
sure.
point that's contested, so I won't use it. But my point is that basically with WB and DC service, the DC services, they have a catalog of so many things, because they held the rights to everything, no matter who made it. So the animated series, so many Batman related shows are on there. The only things that aren't on there are the CW shows, but that's a station that they also own. Whereas with this Disney Plus thing, I think Billy's probably hit the nail on the head of that's probably what they're going to do to flush out the universe, is kind of replace some, because they tried that with S.H.I.E.L.D., Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? That was like the whole premise, was to kind of keep the timeline going in between movies.
Yeah, they had a their TV show and see what's going on between.
Right. And I'm okay with that. I think that's probably a smart move. Because they did mention, I can't remember how to pronounce his last name. It's Kevin Feige, right? You said that's how
Kevin
you pronounced
Feige.
it last time. Feige. Okay, sorry. He mentioned that Phase 5 will be very different from the previous phases, and I think that's probably because we'll see, a couple movies here and there, and then the shows kind of link them in between for characters that may be doing their own thing. So the reason I threw it in here in the first place is because it's coming to, PS4 and Switch and all that. So I thought it was relevant for people to understand what is coming there, in case that they, may have not seen it. So I think it's a good deal. Honestly, everybody was shitting on Disney when they were originally going to do it because they're like, oh, I don't want you to pull all your stuff from Netflix and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, so another $7 a month isn't that big of a deal. Like on it for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't think it's gonna be a huge. Let me put it this way: if you cut cable, I don't know, Billy, if UK cable is the same way, but cable is really freaking expensive here. Like it's like $80 to $120 a month. You buy Netflix, right? That's what I thought. So if you buy a lot of these services, let's say you buy HBO and Showtime and Hulu and Netflix and Disney and DC, that's still gonna be like $60, and you're getting stuff you weren't going to get on cable, and you get a lot of stuff that is on cable. So I think for our generation it's a big deal, but that's because a lot of our generation doesn't buy cable.
Yeah. I mean, we're moving away from that kind of fixed, you must have this cable box connected to this satellite and do this, that, and the other. As long as you have Wi-Fi, as long as you have an internet service provider, and you have a device which has an application on it which can be used to stream content, you're good to go. Like, there's no need to have like a cable provider. And I think it's interesting because you talk to kind of a lot of young people, like say for instance, I used to be the teachers are working in schools, like no one would talk about what's on, BBC or what's on this channel, what's on that channel, the normal cable channels. Everyone would be like, oh, I watched this on Netflix, I watched that on Hulu, I watched that on that service. So it's the dynamic. It's very different now.
Yeah, and we've seen articles where people have posted online what we're discussing already, that cable is so expensive just for basic cable without internet is very expensive. And then paying for, you can get like 3 to 4 streaming services in the amount that you pay just for cable alone, and be able to access all of that stuff at any time you want. So cable's not doing too well because of it. So
I'm going to make one final point before we finish, because I think it's fair to admit where some of us were wrong, and I'll be one of those people. We're kind of seeing come to fruition what Microsoft kind of originally had planned for the Xbox, in it being a hub, in terms of entertainment. Yeah. We're kind of seeing that come to fruition now, and they got shit on really hard for that. But I think ultimately they were right, because like a lot of people don't want to buy smart TVs, but your Xbox and your PlayStation will put out pretty much everything you need. Yeah,
it's a media box.
So, exactly. I think they might have been right in that being a big focus. Even PlayStation has its own cable service now.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't talk about that. So, I think we need to give a little credit.
Good on you, Microsoft. But, you were right. I always thought you were right.
Pretty much.
Bravo.
So that's, I think everything.
I think that is all. Yeah, that's all. Anyway, try and check us out at least once a week. That's how often we try and do this. I am Ambassador Chris.
And I'm Ambassador Michael.
And I've been Billy. It's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Always.
Yep. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
We're gone.